Ammon, thanks for visiting with us.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you for being here.
So you sit here now, awaiting trial, which could conceivably be months away, separated from your wife and your children. Was it worth it?
Yeah, it was. It truly was, because of what we came to accomplish did get accomplished, and even though it is extremely difficult to be away from my family, away from my children, I have 6 young children, as you know, all the way from 13 to 1 years old, and they do cry and miss their dad, and I miss them as well. But there was an extreme need to bring attention to what was going on, and to bring to light what of some extreme abuses that are happening to individuals and families, and also to expose many of the things that are happening to all the people across this nation. So as difficult as it was, I can honestly say that yes, it was worth it.
There are a lot of like-minded people that supported you throughout this occupation. What should those people do now?
Well, I believe that they are continuing to educate themselves, but they should get involved in government, involved in with their elected representatives, involved in bringing light to the violations that our federal government is imposing upon the states and the people, and should continue to insist that federal government follow the laws as well.
While there are a lot of people that supported you, on the flip side, we heard from a lot of people in Burns in particular, as the occupation was coming to an end, who said, they were happy to see you go. They were happy to see it end. What do you say to those people?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when we were in Burns, Harney County, because there's a lot more towns than just Burns, but when we were in Harney County, we found out that by far the majority of the people supported us. The media didn't report that. They always seemed to focus on those that were against us, and that was their choice to do. But when we were having meetings with standing room only with 300-400 people, and we were speaking to them, and when we were being invited to their homes, to their churches, and when all the supplies that we used to live off while we were there, hundreds of people, were all supplied by the community, when we had freezers full of meat, shelves clear full of food, and every bit of that was supplied by the people of Harney County, I would challenge you or anybody else that says that Harney County was not behind us, and that certainly is the fact.
Do you anticipate any other occupations of federal property?
No, I do not anticipate that. I believe that we brought enough attention to the topic that the people that need to know, and the people that are still finding out now know, and that it is the duty of us now to continue to push this to get these things right. And I would like to go home and spend time with my family. I do understand that demonstrations like what we conducted, if you will, are a method in which we as a people have always used to bring attention to government overreach, to government acting outside the authority that the people have given it. And so if government continues to do that, then I imagine there will be groups, that will continue to, protest and continue to demonstrate. But I have no plans to do anything in the near future.
Would you support that type of activity?
Well, of course I would. I mean, we have the Boston Tea Party. We have Martin Luther King Jr. This is what he did. This is how he gained rights for the black community. This is how the women's rights were gained. This is what our nation does. This is how we bring attention to a topic, and we do it legally and lawfully to a topic that needs attention, that needs to be brought forth. And so, of course, I support it, but it needs to be done peacefully. It needs to be done in the proper way, and it needs to be done so people aren't hurt. And that's what we did.
Let me take you back to the day that you were arrested, January 26th. Were you surprised?
I was not expecting it. No, we were headed to a community meeting in Grant County. We were invited there by the community. We knew that the sheriff was going to be there. He had already said he was going to be there. We knew there was 300 or 400 people that were going to be there. And so we were peacefully going to Grant County with our laptops, our projectors, and our PA systems. And they attacked us like we were domestic terrorists or terrorists, even foreign terrorists.
Attacked you in what way?
Well, I mean, we were driving and they ambushed us. That's what happened. And we were peacefully going and giving our message to the people of Grant County. They invited us there. They had set up the meeting, all of that. And again, our weapons were a laptop, projectors, and a PA system. And their weapons were, a standing army with full gear. And I don't even know what would have provoked them to act in such a way, other than maybe them listening to the media about how dangerous we were when we really weren't.
So you knew no sense that the government was moving in at that point?
No, we were peacefully educating people, and we had no reason to believe that the government would come in and attack us that way. No reason at all.
You surrendered?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
Why wouldn't I? Literally, why wouldn't I? I mean, we were never about violence. We were never about like fighting to the death, if you will. We were about educating people, about making a demonstration that would bring light to a topic about how government is prosecuting Americans for ranching and for logging and for mining and also for simple things as hiking and camping and basically how federal government is overreaching and overstepping its bounds that the people have given it. That's what we were there for.
Mm-hmm. At what point did you learn that Mr. Finicum had died?
I did not find that out until after I was in the van, and that's when I found it out.
How did they share news of that tragedy?
Well, I found it out with the others, those that were there.
Have you seen the video that law enforcement released of that
I have.
tragedy?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
I'm going to advise you not to talk about the video itself.
Okay. Well, I know probably more facts than most people know, and I know for sure that Lavoie saved many lives that day, and that he is an American hero. And if he wouldn't have done what he'd done, there would have been more people dead today to talk about. And I honor him. He is a wonderful man. He was an American cowboy who was a family man that loved his country. And to be shot down the way he was is an atrocity. But I am also grateful for his stand and willing to save lives that day.
Can you explain that? I don't quite understand. How did he save additional lives?
I'm going to advise you not to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll just leave it at that. But I know that day that he saved lives, and that if he did not do what he did, that there would be the rest of the people in the vehicle would be most likely killed as well. And that's all I will say about it.
The final 4 occupiers that remained, what role, if any, did you play in encouraging them or having them surrender?
Yeah, and I didn't play a whole lot of role. I did play at the end some roles, but you can see, I'm being advised not to talk about it. And I would rather, again, talk about, what we were there for, why we were there. There's a lot of details that will be exposed, and we're excited for that. We feel very confident in that they will favor us as they're exposed. But at this point, until there's been full discovery made and shared, we need to talk about the things why we're there and what was our purposes.
Let me pose just one more question regarding those 4 remaining occupants, because you released a statement through your attorneys at the time, and I just wanted to see if you could elaborate that. Did they do the right thing in staying there?
I've released a lot of things through my attorneys, and I wouldn't answer that question for you right now. Absolutely not.
In some of the court filings, the FBI has alleged that they're investigating possible damage to artifacts and sacred burial grounds at the refuge.
Right.
Is there damage done?
None whatsoever. We offered those artifacts to the Paiutes, the Paiute people, multiple times. We offered for them to come get them. We offered for them to us to deliver them, and it appeared that most of it was just some type of political thing, because they never would respond. They say they wanted them. They said that they were theirs, but then they never responded. So we left them alone. We never messed with them. And the thing that I would like to point out is how poorly the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was taking care of those. They were just strewed everywhere. They weren't taken care of. And so to come in and say that we, somehow took care of them worse than them, or in any way, we didn't. We respected them. We respect their culture. We respect their beliefs. We have very close ties to Native Americans, and have very fond connections to them. And anyway, so as far as those artifacts, I think that it's a great political ploy for those who are trying to demonize us, but the reality is different.
Maybe you can set the record straight then as far as reality. One of their claims is that they found a trench with human feces near a sensitive cultural site.
Yeah, and there was no trench that I know of that was built in feces or any of that. So, I mean, I don't know anything about what they're talking about there. None. There was just none. So.
Are you ready to experience the most live sports like never before? With the sports app on X1, you can see all the scores in one place, anywhere.
One of the other concerns during the occupation was use of government computers. Did you use a government computer?
No, absolutely not.
Did you see anybody use a government computer?
Nope, absolutely not.
The computer stuff.
One of the other concerns during the occupation was use of government computers. Did you use a government computer?
No, absolutely not.
Did you see anybody use a government computer?
Nope, absolutely not.
The computer stuff.
We actually took them and unplugged them, disconnected them, and set them aside so that no one would use them. That's what we did. So if somebody else did something different, I don't know about it.
But you did not.
Absolutely not.
Your defense lawyers have publicly described the court battle as phase 2. What does that mean to you?
I don't know. I mean, it can mean a lot of things. I wouldn't want to speculate on what they are saying phase 2 is, other than I would say that this is still a education process. We're exposing what government is doing to people. We're exposing how government is, the federal government primarily is acting completely out of the authority in which it has been given. That the federal government has rules too, and those rules are found in the Constitution of the United States, and that they're only given certain powers, and beyond that they're not given any, and yet they have gone way beyond these powers. They've got to come down into the states. They've taken over the education system. They've taken over the welfare system. They've taken over the healthcare system. They've taken over, most of our industries. They've taken over the agriculture, and they're doing it to control, so that they can continue to build and grow their own bureaucracies and to benefit from that. And that was never the way that this government was. Our government was structured. Our government was structured for the federal government to protect the states against the outside world, to be a barrier for the states, to handle international trade, to handle national defense, to protect the borders. That way the states and the people can live free. They can work and govern themselves. They work together, and they have that protection. It was never intended for the federal government to come down into the states and to control its industries, control its healthcare, control its education, and control its agriculture, and the list goes on and on.
You obviously have some strong opinions and views, but can you really affect policy and change from a jail cell?
I don't know. I'm going to do the best I can. I mean, I hope that I can. I believe that I can because of education, and I believe a good example of affecting change in a jail cell was Martin Luther King Jr. He did the same thing, and he seemed to make a pretty good effect on people, and one that has benefited mankind because of his stand.
What have you learned from this experience?
I've learned a tremendous amount. I've learned that I have been able to prioritize. I've been able to learn that I know that God truly lives, and that He loves us and wants us to be happy and wants us to be free. And I should say I've strengthened my understanding of these things. I've also learned how much, again, it strengthened my understanding how much I love my family and how much they mean to me. And one thing that I could say is that I'm in here, I'm in these prison walls, and now that I'm out of solitary confinement, I get to associate with some people. And I've asked the question, how did they get here, and why, and where was the breakdown? Because there's a lot of people here, and they're very similar in a lot of ways of why they're here. And I see that it is mostly a breakdown in their families, that they didn't have families. They didn't have a mother and a father, and they weren't really raised in that structure. And it threw them off as individuals. And so one thing that I have for certain learned is that the core unit of society is the family, and that we as a people, we need to strengthen our families. We need to, strengthen our homes, and we need to try to stay together as mothers and fathers so that we can raise our children so they don't end up in drugs, and they don't end up in prisons. And I believe honestly that is a core element to strengthening our society and to healing us as a nation.
Forgive me if this is too personal, but you've now put yourself in a predicament where you're separated from your children.
Right.
They don't have a father at their own.
Right. And I understand that, and I stay closely connected to them. But again, I had to weigh of whether it was worth it or not, whether what I was doing was going to benefit my children and my family in the future, and whether it was worth it. Just as someone who goes into the military and serves across seas, or even here, to defend their freedom and to defend their family, that is a sacrifice that is made and has to be made at times. There's been always situations where people have had to leave their fields or their farms, if you will, and their families to go and to defend and to fight in order to preserve. And
you sit here today and say, it's all worth it.
I do, absolutely.
The government, in their complaint, focuses heavily on statements that were made and posted online. Did you ever think, maybe I said too much?
Well, remember, I was here for education, and you can't educate, or to inform, I guess, if you want to call it, to inform, and you can't inform unless you talk, and so we weren't going to stop talking, because then we wouldn't accomplish what we came to accomplish.
You were also charged in connection with that 2014 standoff in Nevada. Why do you think the feds brought those charges now?
I'm gonna advise you not to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I have my reasons, but it's disconnected at this time, so I won't answer that. Yeah.
Even today, there were additional charges filed. Jerry DeLemus was arrested. There were charges filed against him. 9 defendants in total. What's your reaction to that?
I really don't know about that. I find that very interesting, though, that he was arrested. I think that in the end, it's going to really show that what they're trying to do is trying to stop people from exercising their free speech and their First Amendment rights. I think that's what this is going to show. Especially with the people that they're arresting and the reasons why they're arresting them, because these were people that were effective in spreading the word that government is acting outside the authority that the people have given it, that the government is the one breaking the law, and so they're trying to suppress that, and the people should be concerned about that.
Those who spoke with you at the refuge said there was a sense of confidence that this group that was there felt like they were going to succeed in this movement. Did you succeed?
Absolutely, we did. Absolutely.
How?
Well, we brought a tremendous awareness of what was going on, and many people know about it, and we believe that if we haven't got the pendulum swinging the other way, it's slowed down. It's very close to swinging the other way. And what I mean by that is people are aware of what the federal government is doing to people now. And that wasn't the way it was before. They're aware that they're going in and prosecuting ranchers because they won't sell their property to them. They're aware that they're going in and taking property through duress. They're aware that they're going in and condemning properties just so that they can take it. And they're also becoming more aware of the Constitution and how it gives very little authority to the federal government, and how the federal government has taken a tremendous amount of usurping that authority, and how that is detrimental to our society. So yes, we have succeeded, and we will continue to succeed.
And I guess that's the question is really, it's not clear to me what is next. So yes, you've raised awareness, but then where do you go from here?
Well, so I guess you go into, I mean, that's probably not my duty. That would be where the elected representatives start to stand out. That would be where people start to get in the right positions to influence government to start changing. And that's where that's what's always happened in civil rights issues. That's always what's happened when changes need to be made. As Martin Luther King says, there's a direct action, and I'll read you his words. He says right here, and this is his letter that he wrote in the Birmingham City Jail, and he says
something that's prevented you in jail, or
no, yeah. Anyway, this is his letter, and he answers the question: why direct action? Why did they do what they did when they did that in Birmingham City? And he says, nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and establish such creative tension that a community that has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks to dramatize the issue that it can no longer be ignored. So, the purpose of direct action is to create a situation so crisis-packed that it will inevitably open the door to negotiation. And that's exactly what we did, and that's exactly what we're doing, and that's exactly what I believe will happen.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't. It's hard being in here. I won't deny that. It is tremendous to be in here and to be away from our family. And I've had to weigh that. Do I regret? Because, I mean, I left a tremendous good life. I have a good business that brings in a good income. I have a home. And those things are secondary. I have a beautiful wife that is wonderful and sweet and kind and good to me, and I try to be good to her. And I have 6 children, ages 13 down to 1. I got three boys and 3 girls. And my life is about as, in my view, is a very good life. So to leave that and to take this risk was tremendous, but I do not regret it.
How do you explain it to them?
They understand. They understand that and feel that, that what I was doing, what I did and what I'm doing is right. And they believe in me, and they honor what we do. We believe that men and women must stand when they see something wrong. They must come to the aid of their neighbor when their neighbor is being abused. And if we were to say it scripturally, the Lord said, love God with all your heart, might, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And that's what we tried to do. We saw our neighbor, the Hammonds, in that they were being abused, that there was tremendous things that were wrong, that were going on, and that the government was about ready to set a precedence that was going to allow, double jeopardy to continue, allow cruel and unusual punishment that was offending our First Amendment rights. And we could see that this family was put in duress so that they could take their property, and we felt that we had to do something. We had to make some type of stand to bring some type of attention to it so it didn't become the normal.
Thank you, Ammon. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.